Hello and welcome to another edition of Movies and Tea After Hours. I'm your host, Elwood Jones, and joining me, of course, is my co-host, Miss Kim Lowe.
Hello.
And, of course, for regular listeners of the show, will know that as part of our After Hours blog, that we like to do Shark Week, and this week we're on our 5th Shark Week, so what better way to mark such a momentous occasion of shark movie appreciation than by having a double feature, which is, of course, what we're doing tonight, as we look at 47 Meters Down, and its direct-to-video sequel, 47 Meters Down Uncaged. But first of all, obviously, 47 Meters Down, this was a film which was released in the cinema back in 2017, directed by Johannes Roberts, and starring Mandy Moore and Claire Holt, as the film follows two sisters who, while on a holiday in Mexico, decide to go cage diving, only for cage to break and the plummet all the way to the ocean floor, with the girls now finding themselves with no way to escape, air supplies running low, and great white sharks lurking nearby. Now, I don't know about yourself, Kim, but this was a movie I only have just seen as of this recording. It's one I was aware of, but for some whatever reason, I just never actually got around to watching it. Is this one you'd seen before, or?
Yeah, I had seen 47 Meters Down. I think I saw it at about the same time as when I saw The Shallows, which I think was released the same year anyways, or something like that, around that time. That year, it felt like there was a lot of shark movies in my mind, and then I remember watching it back to back, and then 47 Meters Down was not quite as impressive as The Shallows.
I think,
to me, obviously.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, this is the problem with shark movies, because they're so numerous. You're never sure whether you're actually going to get a good one whenever you get one that gets a cinema release. I mean, when The Shallows came out, I don't think anyone expected that to be as good as it was, and certainly thanks to the efforts of the Asylum and the Sci-Fi Channel, they've really sort of lowered the bar of what we can expect from a shark movie. And with 47 Meters Down, while the concept was certainly interesting, I just don't know what it was. It just never sort of grabbed me. And watching it now, it's not exactly a shark movie, I'd say. It's more a
underwater survival.
Yeah, it's more, I would say, a disaster movie, but it's just the one incident that happens. It's more just you've got these two sisters who are trapped in this unique situation and have to sort of overcome the odds to survive it. First off the bat, I mean, this film obviously has Mandy Moore doing... I don't know, is Mandy Moore really now considered more an actor than a singer? I'm not sure where we should sort of like put her, whether she's like singer/actor or just an actor these days.
I think she's just an actress at these days. I mean, what have we actually heard her sing? But then I'm not really that, People are going to prove me wrong. I don't listen to a lot of, I haven't listened to the radio in forever, so I don't know. But, I mean, my knowledge of Mandy Moore singing goes back to, really long time ago. So, I'm not even, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've always seen her as an actress, especially nowadays. She did the This Is Us, and then the TV series This Is Us, and then she did this obviously, yeah. And I mean, we see her here and there. I feel like Mandy Moore is not around as much as I would have liked. I mean, back in the days when she did A Walk to Remember, and when she was when she was younger, I felt like, I really like Mandy Moore. She seemed really the girl next door, down to earth, kind of really, really fun to watch. But then she kind of faded out, and then I just kind of forgot about her.
Yeah, I remember her first single, Candy, that came out. That was back in 1999, and she was really one of those acts like Jessica Simpson that they were trying to capture the same momentum that they had with Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. It was sort of like, we need another pop princess, and Mandy Moore was wheeled out, and she never really seemed to make the same sort of headway that those artists did, especially here in the UK. She sort of came and disappeared, but she did actually did several albums, none of which I've listened to. So I sort of heard that single, and then next time I saw her, she was in Entourage, where she was playing the female lead in James Cameron's version of Aquaman. That was the first sort of hint of her being an actress that I saw, and then obviously we've got this. So I've not really followed her career at all. So, but no, for this role, she actually much like her co-star, she learned to scuba dive, and right off the bat, I want to say it's really kind of cool the fact that all this film is actually shot underwater. It's not on sound stages or digital effects and stuff, or sort of like using get-rounds. They shoot it all underwater, so it's kind of like the abyss in that effect. And the actual sort of setup is kind of interesting, really. I mean, first off, the fact that we get to see Matthew Modine doing movies again, which is kind of nice, and I think there's a whole bunch of people out there who just think that Matthew Modine just did Stranger Things and forget that he had a whole career back in like the 80s and 90s as an actor.
Oh, that's what he looked familiar. I forgot he was in Stranger Things.
Yeah, he's in Stranger Things.
Which proves your point.
He's in Full Metal Jacket as Joker. I believe I want to say he's in Birdie as well. I'm trying to think of like Matthew Modine movies. Again, with Matthew Modine, I didn't exactly follow his career, but I liked him in Full Metal Jacket, certainly. And it was so bizarre when he like turned up as, because you have had the credits, and because he's an actor of note, he gets that distinct honor of being Matthew Modine as Captain Taylor. It's not just Matthew Modine. And I was so sure that when he turned up in the whole setup, that he was going to be like a real sort of scumbag captain. So I was kind of surprised that he's not. He just has a really scummy ship, but he's running a legit operation, which is kind of funny to see. Cause
I'm not sure if it's legit, to be honest. Like if you went to Mexico and then you and you met like flip it around, you didn't meet two guys, you met two girls, okay, and then they were like, oh yeah, let's go to the cage diving. It's really awesome. Whatever. I know somebody, and let's go do it. And then you don't know these two dudes or these two girls, and then you go, and then what they bring you to when you get onto like a speedboat, and then you go into like out, and you go to the boat, and this rusty, crappy ship with the entire mechanism is rusty. I don't know if I do it. I mean, call me like,
Oh yeah, when I saw that cage, I was like, yeah, that totally screams health and safety there, doesn't it?
I know. You look at it and you're like, this thing is gonna break. Like, this is an accident waiting to happen,
I think the first warning sign, though, is the fact that his only check that they can dive is like, you can dive, right? And it's like, oh yeah, we can totally dive. And like, Mandy Moore's character has like no clue about diving at all, but somehow manages to get...
She doesn't know how to check her oxygen. She doesn't know anything that he says, whatever he's referring to. And then he just kind of like brushes it off.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Is sort of like, oh yeah, this is for your oxygen. It goes in your mouth. I'm thinking, if she doesn't know where that goes, I don't really think that she knows what she's doing.
I know. I mean, the deal with this movie is that there are a lot of things. I think my major issue with it is I always have fun with shark movies, no matter like whether it's like laughing at it or just getting like those jump scares or those like sudden tense moments. Yeah. I always find some way to enjoy it, and I did enjoy 47 Meters Down, but my main issue with it, why it lost points on my radar, was just because some of the dialogue was really stupid. And then at the same time, you also had this whole motivation to get Mandy Moore to get into the water. Her role is called Lisa. To get Lisa into the water is that her sister, Kate, played by Claire Holt, shout out to all of the Vampire Diary fans here.
Two of
them. No, I like them. I'm a Vampire Diary fan. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then you have her. The Kate's main argument for Lisa, who's scared to go to all these things, is to prove to her ex-boyfriend that she's daring. Like, I don't know. I mean, if a dude dumped me because he thought I wasn't exciting enough, and then you feel bad about it, and then you have to go and prove it to him, he doesn't care. He left. Like, even if you died, nothing's gonna happen. He's not gonna feel anything. He's not gonna care.
Well, it's the whole thing is that she wants to prove that she's a fun girl. She's going to go out and do daring things, which I think she believes has been the cause for her the breakdown in her relationship. Now, there was footage of her boyfriend shot, and he would have been played by James Van Der Beek, but they felt that it ruined the sort of momentum of the film, and preferred to have the bit sort of mystique of who the boyfriend was and his sort of side of things, so they cut all those scenes out. But the large portion of the film is just basically focuses on these two girls, Lisa and Kate, as they're trapped to the bottom of the ocean, and they occasionally are able to communicate with Captain Taylor by the sort of internal mic at all, and we get little sort of glimpses of the system, but the rest of the time it's just these two sisters sort of hanging out at the bottom of the ocean trying to problem solve. And yeah, I can't say that they were the most engaging pair that I've ever sort of had for myself stuck at the bottom of the ocean with, to say the least. And the film, for the most part, goes through all the sort of usual sort of emotions. It's all like we put these characters in the worst situation, they have the emotional situation that they overcome, and then they find the resolution for it. So in terms of actual storyline and plotting, the film doesn't really throw that too many sort of surprises out there, and it did also feel like kind of tedious, because they aren't in this constant threat. It's sort of they're sort of sitting around in this cage, and they're sort of wondering how they're going to get back up to the surface, and occasionally we'll get like a great white shark turn up to sort of mix things up a bit, but those moments are sort of few and far between, and it's really only towards the end that the film sort of became interesting with one of its little plot twists, which we'll come to in a minute, because I felt that it certainly could have changed how the film ended, just based around this one twist.
But like the ending is the best part of the movie. For like there are a few pretty good parts, and I think like obviously we have there's a part where the whole time Kate is the one who's being more daring, and then when it comes to a point where Kate is not able to do this because I think she was injured or something, then Mandy Moore, like Lisa, has to go out and do this, even though she's scared. So there's that moment where she heads out, and then she's in this like emptiness type of thing, like empty, just in the middle of the water. You don't know what's under you. It just goes on forever. You don't know where the sharks are coming, and that part is just so. I think the best part is this film is able to balance that underwater depth, the darkness in the water and the murky water, and really just have the sharks come out sparsely. I don't mind that they didn't add more shark moments, but I like the fact that they were able to create the tension that something's out there, but you don't know when it's gonna come. And then it would just be kind of like this kind of jump scare shock type of thing.
Yeah, the other issue I have is the fact that we're just going to say that there's going to be spoilers throughout this episode for both these films, so I'm just going to warn ahead now from this point, really. And that we get an hour into this film, and they're pulling the cage up, because they managed to get another cable attached to it, and then it's almost like the director's like, oh crap, we got another half an hour of this film to release, drop that cage. So we end up with them once again stuck back where we started. It's sort of like, at that point I'm like, I'm just done. And it's sort of like, you just dropped this cage because you couldn't think of anything else to do with these people, and now it's sort of like we're put them in a slightly worse situation. So that was stupid. But
I feel like if they did it earlier, like if they did that attempt earlier, and then they dropped the cage down. Now, we didn't have that whole part of, the whole trying to get up, and then you go up and you have the fake victory, and, you've gone through all these motions. I feel like it's just the concept was good. It was just how it was executed and how they paced it that was not as good. Like, you really have this moment that, I get what you mean. Like when they dropped it back down, it was meant to be shocking. Like, oh, this is like failed again. Yeah. All their attempts are not working. Will they make it out? It's to create the sense of danger. Not that they're not danger. Not that they're not in enough danger since they're running out of oxygen. But you would have assumed that before you tried to pull up the cage, maybe you would have sent down the oxygen first, I don't know. I mean, well, that might have been helpful.
He actually does say, though, doesn't he? Because Captain Taylor's like, The reason I didn't send down the oxygen is because
Yeah,
of
it's because of
the
the
nitrogen narcosis, which basically
yeah.
means you trip bowls underwater, which gives us our fun twist of the episode as they finally sort of battle their way back up to the surface, and where they get this great moment. She's sort of lying on the deck, and they're doing the resuscitation breakdown, and she's like looking at her hand, and she sees like the blood, and it's all like floating underwater, which I thought was really cool. And then we cut back to her, and she's in the bottom of the cage, and I was like, end the movie there. It's like, I don't need her rescued. I just want her like still stuck at the bottom of the ocean. It's all we think that she's escaped, but it's all in her head. And I think it's because it's an American production. American productions are pretty legendary for not being able to stick with dark endings, as we saw with like Brazil and The Big Blue as well. Both tacked on happy endings onto pretty dark ending films.
I think.
Yeah, Into the Descent as well. Also went with the not so happy ending. When you guys are in Canada, do you get the American endings or do you get the European endings?
We get the I think we get the American ending.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, but I had found the other ending.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I think that, at this point we're talking about the ending, and the ending part, through whether you like, obviously this is my second viewing, so to me I had already known the twist. I already knew that what was going to happen in general. Like, I hadn't seen it a few years, and I'm not like a super fan of this movie, so I had an idea about what was going to happen, but I forgot that she got rescued. I forgot that she got rescued, honestly. I think the part that was the best was not only the twist, but it was the going up part when they were battling upwards. I really, really, like, that's my like most memorable scene ever. Like, the one part of 47 Meters Down that I remember from the first time I watched it till the second time that I watched it, I looked forward to it even more, was when they had the whole, like, the sharks swarming in around them and the dark, dark ocean as they're going up, and then it lights up, they light up with the flare, I think, or something. And then it's just like, you see the sharks around you, and then they repel backwards. And then as you go back up, you keep seeing that, and it's amazing, and it's just such a beautifully shot scene, because I just think it's so nice. Like, the entire idea of that, the danger of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's that real nice sort of the way they sort of shoot this idea that you're ascending into salvation, that you go down into the depths of this watery hell, and you're going to, with the light coming down, we're sort of ascending back into the salvation of land, I guess, or wherever you want to go, the surface land. But yeah, I mean, it's just. I mean, it would have been. I just so hung up on it. The fact it didn't have a down ending. It's not. I mean, what are we supposed to do? It's not like we're going to create a franchise around following Lisa and her sister, is it? It's sort of like, a sequel with them. What, they got in another rusty ass cage and got trapped somewhere else? It's sort of like, how clumsy are these bitches? So it just brings me back to that. My favorite line on the middle is where he's reading about the climbers in Everest, and he's like, "Wow, rich people sure love to die in stupid places." And that's what I felt with these two well-to-do girls. The other issue I have here is the fact that we have so few people, and when I'm watching a shark movie, I like a big body count, because I like to see a lot of shark attacks. It's sort of like, but here we've got two sisters. And we got one rescue diver, and I suppose like the other rescue team that are coming in, but that they're equipped for this situation. They're not half-assing it like this team are.
So I'm guessing, like, we're gonna talk about the second movie soon. I would assume, but I mean, the second movie was probably more your speed then. Had a bigger cast.
The second movie sets it up. I mean, you obviously got potential for more people to die in stupid ways, which is always good.
Yeah. So anyways, we're talking about cast, and I just wanted to mention, like, if we, this is like a classic teen TV cast, of anything. Like, maybe not like, passe or now, whatever. I don't know if Mandy Moore did TV before, but Claire Holt is from Vampire Diaries. And then you have Yanni Gelman, who was in Pretty Little Liars. And then you have Santiago Segura, which was in Scream TV series.
So who was he in? I'm just trying to find out who he was in Pretty Little Liars, because I watched that and I enjoyed the first 4 seasons, I think. I remember there's the season. I just remember a point where it just got stupid in Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah.
He was Officer Garrett.
Oh. Yeah. He was a Garrett guy. He was
Garrett
with Allison, I think, at some point.
Yeah. And Matthew Modine. So it's he's obviously done TV work now. It's kind of shocking, really, the fact that there is going to be a whole group of kids out there, as we said already, who just think that Matthew Modine just did Strange Things. Same as Winona Ryder. They think that she's just a TV actress, not, this 80s teen icon.
Actually, I was just looking at this. The diver, the diver Javier that dies is played by Chris Johnson, and he was in Vampire Diaries also. I didn't know that. I forgot. Yeah. So 47 meters down is it's. I think it's a normal. It's kind of a formulaic movie in a certain way. Like, it's kind of predictable in what's happening. I really do think that the premise that they had, the idea they had, was good. It's just that maybe it's the writing, maybe it's some things just felt a little bit too, I don't know, it was just, you expected everything to happen the way that it would.
Yeah.
I think the shark element was done really well. So if they had, maybe you were right, if they did add the shark element more, it would have been better.
Yeah, I can. There's many sort of things I can sort of forgive her. Obviously these are great white sharks that they encounter, and obviously this being a shark movie, we have to play up, sharks are dangerous and throw, science and common sense out the window, which is fine. I can live with that, because while it made no sense for these like sharks to have as much interest in these kids as they do. Yeah. But sharks are gonna get paid. There's no hell of a huge amount of acting roles for sharks and doing Free Willy style roles out there. So if you go into this, I think expecting more of a sort of like a disaster movie or I think that's the best way to describe it, because it is basically these two girls in this situation that they have to sort of find their way out of. The sharks are just more sort of like the background threat of the situation. They're just there to provide an obstacle to overcome.
I wonder though if when they did this, I felt like the mindset of it was that this is more of just a survival movie. And yes, the sharks are a background threat, but they're still fairly they're still there more and more, right? As they start moving around more, which is generally the concept, right? If you're not moving, sharks don't really care about you. If you're not getting hurt, you're not bleeding, sharks aren't supposed to care too much about you. But then, as they start moving, up and down, and then they start, swimming around, and, then you kind of get the attention of these predators underwater, because now you're ooh, prey type of thing. So I wonder if there's some kind of truth to it, in the sense that they make it where, as they start planning to leave, as they start doing more, then sharks are more abundant.
They tried to obviously cover for this, but the fact that they've all got these gaping wounds and bleeding all over the place, which you got to give the film some sort of credit for that. It's trying to inject some sort of sense into the premise of why these sharks would be so interested, because obviously when it comes to the cages, it's the magnetic field that cages generate, which sparks sharks' curiosity, and sharks obviously explore everything with their face because they don't really have hands. So that's the sort of reason that you see sharks attacking cages and things, because it's those curiosity of what this is in their territory, and the fact that obviously they got bloody wounds and all the rest of this is obviously going to hold the sort of shark's interest there. But I did. As I said, every time I sort of come back to it, as nice as the film sort of looks, the actual situation just didn't engage me. And at the same time, there's not enough constant reminder of the threat there because we've got such a small number of people in the area. So we can't just like keep bumping off minor cast members to sort of keep the threat high. Like when we look at something like Deep Blue Sea, for example. Or Bait, even. Bait is another great
episode. Bait had a gigantic cast.
Yeah, but they had plenty of disposable people to sort of throw away there, which, again, it constantly reminds you of the threat that's there. Whereas when we look at The Shallows, we were constantly reminded of the sharks there because it's just constantly... It's got a very sort of... it's got that sort of stalker presence to it. So it was this constant threat, and at the same time, the situation that she's in, her own sort of personal sort of life was a really sort of engaging subplot to this. You know, how she gets off the rock was really sort of engaging, and so a real credit to Blake Lively. Although when I was seeing like the text messages, I think it's in this one or it's in the next one. I just thought straight away of The Shallows, the way the text messages appear on the screen.
Oh, it might be the next one. I don't think this one had text messages because with the even the conversation with the ex-boyfriend was like off camera, right? And then the whole thing was like afterwards, and then there wasn't. I don't think there was anything. Oh yeah, there was one part where they were talking to. Yeah, they were talking. She was talking to the ex-boyfriend via messaging or something. I think there was one part in the beginning. Yeah.
I think if I caught this on TV, I would enjoy it more than if I paid to see it in the cinema. So I suppose the settings for this film helped. I don't think if I paid to see it in the cinema, I think I would have really got anything more out of it. I probably would have been very disappointed I'd spent my money on this instead of seeing something else at the time. I'm trying to think what else came out in 2017 that I could have obviously gone and seen, but 2017 wasn't exactly a standout year for myself, so...
I don't remember what came out in 2017. But yeah. Anyway, so I mean, I think we've talked quite a bit about 47 Meters Down, and we should talk about the sequel.
Yeah.
So 47 Meters Down, Uncaged was released last year, and you said it was direct to video, right?
Yeah, this is a DTV release. It's just recently turned up on Netflix here in the UK, which I think is probably one of the best places for it to be seen because it's real Netflix fare. This one is. So yeah, 47 Meters Down, Uncaged. Originally, this was titled 48 Meters Down. Real clever play on words there, guys. This one being released last year. And much like Deep Blue Sea, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't rush out and grab it when it was released on DVD. As like I said, it's one of those films that you watch if it stumbles across like your Netflix or your Amazon Prime, but I don't think you'd sort of rush out and buy it unless you were like a really huge fan of 47 Meters Down.
I'm sure there are people out there who are. I mean, 47 Meters Down, I feel like it's just finding a reason to continue on. I mean, it wasn't really 47 meters down. We don't really know how many meters down they were. But, I mean, they kept a lot of, like, the key things from the first movie. You know, like, it's still about sisters and friends, but sisters. It still has, you know, sharks in kind of, you know, obviously, and there's sharks in underwater, more sharks this time. The threat is a bit different. The area is a bit different. The place they are is a little bit different. There are some similarities, and obviously because the director is the same, which is, I feel like it's quite rare that you actually have movies like shark movies and stuff like that where the director and even the writers remain the same for both. So I guess we can see a lot of the things because there is that kind of love for that, obviously, the first movie, which is being carried down to a vision for another shark movie in this one. Yeah,
definitely so. I mean, obviously, with this one, we had a lot of the main sort of players return. We had not only, you know, Johan Roberts return as well, but we've got the same producers and Screenplay again being produced by Joan Roberts and Ernest Riviera, and we also have music again by Tamandi, who did the soundtrack of the first one, which we didn't actually touch upon in our first half of the show. But once again, they return with a very sort of abstract and non-intrusive score. Tamandi are one of those, musical duos who do a lot of soundtracks, but I can never sort of like place where their music is. Even I think the only exception to that being Rules of Attraction, where they did the soundtrack to that, but they've certainly done music for a number of others. They've in terms of like film scores, they did Killing Zoe, The Hills of Ice, the Alexandra Aja remake. They did The Strangers, which ties in quite nicely to obviously our director here, who between doing 47 Meters Down and this film did the sequel to The Strangers, with The Strangers Pray at Night, which we said we were going to watch, but we haven't got around to it yet. And currently he's going to be taking on the Resident Evil reboot, so it seems that rebooting properties seems to be his new career path.
Rebooting horror stuff, apparently, to certain elements. I don't know. I mean, I think Resident Evil reboot is a topic for another day to discuss.
Unneeded.
Huh?
The Resident Evil reboot is unneeded, perhaps.
Pretty much.
I mean, did we not say everything we wanted with the first 6 films?
I don't know. I mean, as much as people give a lot of crap to Paul W.S. Anderson for Resident Evil, I really did enjoy it for the most part. So I don't know what they're going to bring to it that's going to be different. Maybe, stick more to the games. I don't know. We never know what's going to happen, right? But I mean, for sure, this director has a really good visual eye. And especially when he's doing this in Uncaged, I think that there's still a lot of those light flares and all those things that really work with the underwater scene that he really likes, dark settings, dark underwater settings. And this movie actually played a lot like it had a lot of just the underwater format of The Descent. I don't know if you felt that way, but just like how the shark first appears behind, behind one of them, and they don't notice it, but we do. Yeah. It's the same thing as there was one scene in The Descent, which is exactly like that.
Oh, yeah, definitely so. I mean, in terms of the plot this time, thankfully it's not another ocean set thriller again. There's no stupid people getting in stupid cages again. As this time we've got a pair of stepsisters. We've got Mia, played by Sophie Niles, and her stepsister Sasha, played by Corinne Fox, who both have moved to a new school. And Mia's basically struggling to settle in. She's already been targeted by the school bitch, Catherine, who's played by Breck Bassinger. And the two basically end up going on a diving excursion because they find out of a secret cave-in system that Mia's father has discovered, which has an underwater tomb that's been undiscovered for a number of years. So the pair team up with 2 of their friends and decide to go diving in this cave system, only to find themselves not only trapped inside, but also having to now avoid the blind cave sharks I almost said that with a straight face, that inhabit the tombs. So right off the bat, we've got larger cast, we've got more sharks, different setting, and as you said, Kim, it's a real Descent vibe to this. Or if we're to talk about, the original version of The Descent, What Waits Below, arguably superior. But again, that's a discussion for another day. It's a really great setup. I mean, again, we've got people actually doing diving in underwater sets, which is really nice to see. It's a different sort of setup than what we're used to. It could have been so easy, the fact that they had to enter an underwater system and then they're sort of trapped in and have to do like spelunking and go in and out of water, but no, we get everything that is shot underwater, which is really nice. And again, Roberts has a great eye for shooting underwater. I have to give him his credit. It's he's teaming up once again with cinematographer Mark Silk, and between them, they just really do a great job with selling these underwater sequences.
While I think I scored both of the films the same rating, but in terms of saying which movie was more engaging and had a lot more action going on, I think that Uncaged is definitely one that I would go back to rather than maybe 47 meters down. Just because there was so much more, I guess so much more action, so much stuff happening. There's always something going on. The only issue with it is that some of these people, like you had already said before, it was just more people to die in dumb ways.
They knew what I wanted.
Yeah, apparently so. So some of this, like, it's just you kind of expect some of these deaths to happen, and yet sometimes shark, because of how these sharks move, I think there's a similarity in the sense that these sharks are very, like, they prey and you see them go very slow when they're kind of just like around the water, but then when they attack, they're very fast. So a lot of it is just like just going by, right? And the frustrating part of this movie is probably, I just wonder if it's frustrating. I think because we're watching it, you feel that you're thinking to yourself and you're yelling at the people. You're like, shut up, shut up. You already said they're blind. Heightened senses. Just stop talking, But then you think about it. If you were in the same situation and you were in this dark cave and there were, like, sharks swimming above you or just attacking the people, suddenly people are dying left, right, and center, you would probably, like, it would be hard to not be very, like, panicked.
Yeah, definitely so. It's a very claustrophobic experience to watch this film because they're basically, the tunnels that they're going down are basically, there's enough for one person to sort of go through, and the sharks themselves are largely confined to areas because they constantly get stuck in the entranceways. Yet apparently this place is either so shoddily built or the sharks are super strong, I couldn't decide which, that it constantly falls apart and blocks off parts of the tunnel system. So they're constantly faced with these situations where they've got to sort of sneak past the sharks who, as you said already, they're blind, so they work off a sense of, like, smell and sound, which I thought it's a fun twist. I mean, I don't think of any other sort of movies like this where it's sort of like combining that sort of underwater cave diving, sort of spelunking sort of atmosphere, with the added sort of threat of having sharks in there. Because there's obviously films like Sanctorum, which has people like going through like underwater cave systems, and obviously we got numerous sort of shark movies, but I've never seen the two combined the way that we have here, which I thought was a really interesting approach to it. And the whole sort of setup and the location is really interesting as well. And so I also found that this group of girls, they're all sort of interesting in their own sort of way, even though they're sort of interchangeable when they've all got their dive gear on. So I think they probably could have put a little more forethought into that, have them in like different coloured suits, or just have the way to sort of distinguish between them a bit more, because there was numerous occasions where I thought that one character died but they actually hadn't, it was another person. So
really?
Oh yeah.
It wasn't really that hard to figure out, because everybody had to me at least, they each had their own distinct type of personality. So it wasn't too hard for me to distinguish them. I mean, well, they were all different, right? Even in their scuba gear and how they reacted and how they did whatever, it would be easy to tell who was who. But I think, obviously, I was reading up on some of the comments on this movie, and it was like, and I think the people talked the most about the fact that this is kind of, obviously we have two here which are second generation actresses.
Oh, you're talking about Sistine Stallone?
Yeah, Sistine Stallone is, and then you have Corinne Fox.
Oh, so she is, isn't she? Yes, she's Jamie Foxx's daughter.
Yeah. Yeah.
You forget Jamie Foxx is old enough to have a daughter.
Yeah. I mean, we had a conversation that we don't watch enough. We had a conversation, me and my husband, that was about how we don't remember Jamie Foxx and a lot of other stuff. We just remember him in Collateral. And then I'm like, no, he was in other things. We just don't watch a lot of Jamie Foxx. That's all.
He's not really a draw for myself either. I don't know why. He's not the sort of actor I get excited about seeing. The same with Denzel Washington. Once you realise that Denzel Washington's whole career path is insert career, but combined with, but he is a genius. So like whatever it is, he's like, oh, he's a train driver, but a genius. Oh, he's a pilot, but a genius. It's sort of like, oh.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So that's the only point I have. I know there's people out there who obviously who love and adore Denzel Washington, and so we're not going to tackle that one too much. Something I do want to tackle about as much, which is really weird. The soundtrack to this film is so weird. I don't know if it would seem weird to yourself, but they've got like, they open with like Status Quo. The girls are like rocking out to Prefab Sprout when they're going on their Jeep ride.
Going to going to secret location.
I had a worrying thought that we were going to see the whole drive to the lake like we did in Shark Night. Whenever I see people driving anywhere now, I just assume this could be the whole journey that we're going to sit through. But yeah, Prefab Sprout, somewhere in my heart. I don't think that these girls would be rocking out to that. I know my friend Adrian, he does a really good karaoke version to that. It's a very involved performance he puts in with it. So
I think the movie is okay. Like, the way that it sets up is pretty good. I think that the differences of 47 meters down, Uncaged, to the first one, it's nice to see that they didn't do something that had to kind of, I don't know, that had to nod to the first one. I mean, other than the fact that obviously underwater, their main issue is survival. So their main issue is oxygen level. And it was the fact that sounds and trigger were all triggers. So there was so much more triggers in this one than the previous movie, that I think it actually gave it this more intense moment, because it felt like the darkness, and then like when they kicked up all the dust, and it was just so hard to see, and everything was really done really well, even to the blind sharks. Like, you look at the blind sharks, and then you have this, you can see like as they go over them or whatever in different angles, you start seeing these sharks, and then not only are their eyes, obviously they're blind, so you can't whatever, but you see that their bodies, because of this place they're in, is all scratched up also. And I think that just those little details it's such a nice touch, because it gives these sharks kind of a uniqueness to the area that they're in.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, the shark effects in this one aren't as impressive as they are in 47 meters down.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think those to be sort of be expected, being that it's a DTV release. And after I saw that cave, we had the first thing that we see is the blind cavefish, which looks shockingly bad. It's like a 3D.
I know, shockingly bad, and then it screams.
Yeah, which makes no sense. Which brings me on to my next point. Whose broad idea was it to have the sharks announced with a foghorn? Whenever these sharks appear, it's always like this, and it's like, it's so like, oh, that's supposed to be like this big tension thing, but it's so like just choreographed whenever the shark appears now, so it's very hard to get any sort of shocking sort of moments there. But
yeah.
there are moments actually when the sharks do look really, really, really good. But yeah, I mean, I can't say that I really sort of hated the shark effects. I think I've certainly seen a lot worse when it comes to shark effects than we did with this film. So real sort of credit to the production studio, the Fizz Facility, who obviously worked on those.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the sharks worked the best when they were in far away shots.
Oh yeah,
like
definitely.
Obviously the lurking moments were really good, because then it was all about the stillness, and I'm always down for quiet, still moments in horror movies, because I find like when they're done, in a certain way in the right situation, it always elevates the movie. And in this one, there are quite a few like that really work. But where it really excels, I think, is even though the effects obviously weren't as good as the first one, when they were far away and they were taking pictures, like even when you're doing, I really love those, everybody's doing it now in shark movies, but the above shots where you see the shadows of the sharks swimming under and stuff, it is really, really impressive to see just where you're positioning the sharks as well as with them, right? And I think one of those biggest and best moments, not excluding we're going to talk about the ending later, and we're going to talk leading up to the ending and stuff, but that part where you have that, you feel like they're going to escape, and they're at this point, and then it's just, everything just goes to crap, obviously. But that part was kind of just really, really, it had kind of like that Deep Blue Sea attacks Samuel L. Jackson moment, where when you see the girls are trying to go, and then they're trying to go up, and it's just, everybody just goes crazy type of thing, right?
Oh, the reverse rappel. For myself, it just brings to mind the scene in Terran Inferno where you've got the building owner's son, and they're in like the rescue boy that they're going across the buildings in, and he basically tries to commandeer itself, and it just like turns to this mass panic moment. But yeah, she really sort of drops the ball. It's funny how that lighthearted situation suddenly went south real quick.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like this director is always like that, right? They always give you he keeps giving you like false sense of victory, but at the same time, I think it's just the fact that obviously it's a bit different, and in this case, it works a bit better than obviously the cage falling again in the first one.
Oh yeah,
this one is a bit different because you're in a different moment of escape. Whereas the other one was less about that. It was like it was more of the same, right? Just in the worst situation. Whereas this one, it was like you would lose somebody in the process of this false sense of victory, and then the situation would be much worse than before, and then they had to gather themselves and be like, okay, well now we have a plan. But we don't have the leader of the plan anymore, so let's go and figure this out ourselves,
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, I knew that the whole rappel thing wasn't going to work. I mean, imagine if we had to sit there and watch like 15 minutes and watch these people just reverse rappel themselves out, because it's not the most speediest of things. So I was fully expecting that to go pear-shaped. And I mean, this is what I really liked about this film compared to the original film, and the fact that you're constantly encountering problems and situations, and it falls more into that sort of disaster mode. The fact that we're started off in this situation, and we're constantly going to these different points where we think we're going to find an escape, only to then be presented with a different problem, or the situation changes. And I have to say, I felt really, really bad for like the father character in this, because he's sort of like, they're helping these dozy ass girls out, and then gets mauled, and it's sort of like the fact when you escape, you've now got to go back and explain to your stepmom how you got your father killed. And that's the conversation I was like, oh, don't really want to do that one. So you're damned if you survive, and you're damned if you don't. So, but
yeah, but I mean, in a situation like that you might get a little bit of grief over it, but in the end, they did lose a lot of people in the process, and I mean, just as a thing, like the father is played by John Corbett, which I think most people know him from Big Fat Greek Wedding. So
is that where he's from? I couldn't place it.
Yeah, well, he was in a lot of stuff after that, but I mean, he's on and off. Like, I see him in a lot of things. He's also in he's also the father character in To All the Boys I've Loved Before.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's in the Sex and the City movies as Aidan Shaw. I remember sitting for those movies. I don't remember him being there. He's never changed his hair. I wonder if he's in...
Well, I mean, yeah, I believe he changed it from Big Fat Greek Wedding, which was a long
He seems
time
to have
ago.
still have that long, puffy hair sort of look going. And apparently he was also in
Yeah.
Volcano as well. Which I would say I would watch as well if you like this movie. But no, I really, as I said, the whole sort of plot line. I like the fact that we're constantly presented with these issues. The whole sort of setting, as I said, we're going through for a caving system, and cave diving as a whole is just scary as all hell. So throwing sharks,
Yeah.
it's sort of like an easy kind of win here.
Yeah.
And I had to say that there's a really awesome death sequence in this film, which I think elevated it from being a little higher than I probably would have rated it. But I'm not going to spoil for you guys because you can enjoy that one for yourself. Even if
I think I know which one you're talking
it
about.
did befall my favorite character, but never mind.
Huh?
It befell my favorite character, which is a shame, but so be it. Now, when we get to obviously the end, and we have this sort of final sort of dash to safety for the boats and stuff, because now these girls manage to escape a tomb of blind sharks and end up swimming into a chum lane for this glass bottom boat that they should have been on originally. So that was a nice throwback.
I know. I you know that. You know what? I really. I'm starting as we talk about this. I'm starting to love this movie more. And then you just think about it, and you're thinking about how smart that was, because through this whole cave thing going on, I forgot that they were supposed to be somewhere else. And then when they brought it back, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And then they had to go like slam the window where that bully, like the bully girl was. And then it was just, you see that moment in the end and stuff. And then oh man, I'm telling you, the ending where they were going to the boat and constantly being like attacked by these different sharks and stuff. Oh my god, that was so intense.
Oh really? Because that's where I didn't find a major detraction from the film for myself.
Really? I thought, because obviously, like, I had a feeling, I thought that, the worst part, I liked the whole sequence, but I didn't like that whole slow motion flare gun bit.
Oh, that was
It
stupid.
was so stupid. Oh, that was so stupid. Like, if they didn't have that part, they kept everything fast paced, I would have been totally down with that entire sequence.
It's just at the end, it gets to the end, and it still felt like that these dozy, I keep calling them dozy bitches because it feels like the best way to sort of describe them. But yeah, these two girls that they're trying to get back on the boat and they're just constantly being attacked by sharks, and it felt like the director had to give them like the final sort of shot, a bit having the tough girl moment, because he's got two leading ladies. They both have to have the tough girl moment. You can't just have one have it because it sort of detracts from the other. So they.
Well, I mean, technically, if you think about it, there is only one tough girl here, and that's giving the girl who was being like giving Mia, who was being bullied in the beginning, this like strong fighting edge that because obviously the first person gets dragged down is Sasha, and then just to prove that through this entire thing their sisterhood has been bonded, she just jumps right back in without thinking, grabs the flare gun, the most clear-minded she's been in the entire time. And then she jumps back in, and then she attacks the shark.
Yeah,
right?
but it's all like we have to show them both being attacked and attacking the shark at the same time. It's not the case of like one's attacked and the other one's rescuing. And it's all like, oh yeah, we've got this great thing now to bind us, and it's like we were both attacked by sharks, and it's like, it's not the best thing, but yes, it is something that will finally bond these two stepsisters together. And I suppose sets up the next 47 meters down when, the stepmother remarries and brings in another sister for them.
If they do another one, it's going to be like a different story again. I mean, every single one is a different story. The only thing is, where else can you bring sharks? I mean, I like the concept that they have. I mean, sharks and lack of oxygen in a shark cage at the bottom, that was a good premise. They just didn't execute it well enough. And then this one was blind sharks and cave and cave exploration, which is really nice when you bring the claustrophobia and all that stuff in, and then they even,
Yeah.
managed to wrap it up. I actually thought it was pretty smart for the most part.
It's funny you should mention, obviously, what they could do for a third one, because I was speaking to Jay today over on the Deep Blue Sea podcast and as well as the Lambcast. And I was saying that the original concept for Deep Blue Sea 2 was that it was going to be in a flooded town and it was going to be full of sharks. So it's going to be like Hard Rain meets Deep Blue Sea, which I thought would be an awesome concept. And we kind of saw this with Crawl, which is obviously gators in the flooded town. And I think maybe for the third one they do that. We get flooded town and sharks. I think that'd be really cool.
Oh, that could be a good idea. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
a coastal town, obviously, because sharks and fresh water.
I feel like you know what I feel like though. I feel like that this director is super good at the filming part. Provided he has the budget, because I feel like maybe Uncaged, the only reason why it didn't work so well was maybe the budget was a bit lacking, so the effects were not so good. But
he makes it work.
But I feel like he could benefit from having someone else write the script.
That's how you get a film under budget. If you've got 12 million to make your film, you write and produce, and you act and you do as many roles as you can, because it's one less person you have to pay.
True. I mean, maybe maybe at this, because I feel like he is getting better in the writing. Like, obviously, 47 meters down, it was a whole pacing issue and lack of sharks. This one, he made up for it. He brought in a lot of sharks, all kinds of sharks. Every room had sharks.
You're not alone in that thinking that he is actually getting better as a director. There seems to be a lot of people who are sharing that opinion. I mean, when you compare it to like his earlier films such as Hellbreeder or Forest of the Damned, and garbage like Storage 24 with Noel Clarke. Oh god, I hate anything that man's involved in. You want to have an unfun time, watch something with Noel Clarke in it. So, I mean, I was still going to watch obviously The Strange Spirit at Night, so maybe throw it away between the two films, but certainly 47 Meters Down on Cage, on looking like recollection on it, I enjoyed it a lot more than when I was watching it. I think it played better when I was sort of like going through the experience that it just had with it, but
I didn't, my thing was, like, I really like Uncaged. I think that, the more I think about it, I had a really fun time. I don't know, like, I feel like I'm just easily scared, maybe. Like, I get really, like, worked up when I watch shark movies. So I had a lot of, like, fun jump scare moments. But then, deep down, those are just cheap scares. But I had a fun time with it, and that's what matters.
It's also the second time we see sharks swim backwards. No, they can't do that. But in this film, they certainly can.
Well, I mean, I'm guessing that you're talking about Deep Blue Sea, where they swim.
Deep Blue Sea, they swim backwards, and in this, there's a scene where it appears from a
but
cave.
Deep Blue Sea, Deep Blue Sea was the fact that they had an explanation for it because their brains are bigger and they're smarter, so they're able to swim.
So
backwards
what was the shark's excuse in this one? Because it appears from a cave and then swims backwards. It's like, right?
Maybe just like how they adapted to their system to the underwater, the cave system, they can swim backwards now. I don't know. I mean, they seem to know a lot in the movie too. Like the girls in there, they seem to know a lot that I don't know about. It seems like they already knew about blind sharks.
So yeah, I think out of the two, I would watch Uncaged again. Again, this is sort of it's sort of perfectly suited for Netflix. It's that sort of viewing experience where you're sort of looking for something to kill some time with, and this is a not a bad movie to do that with. So,
well, if you're in Netflix Canada, you don't have it yet. So
yeah, unless you're obviously in Netflix
I had to
Canada.
rent. I had to pay money to watch this.
So look out for it on a movie channel or something. I'm sure it'd turn up somewhere. So
yeah, no, but it's really not. It's really, in terms of all of the direct to video sequels that you would have normally seen. I feel like Uncaged is not too bad. Like it's a fun time. It's not great, but it's a fun time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to talk about in this one?
No. No.
Further viewing then, if you do enjoy these movies, what would you say would be good films to pair with it?
Well, I mean, obviously, I've mentioned The Descent, which I thought, in both cases, actually are very good. I think most of my choices are very much just, very very much similar to, I don't know, they're just kind of like survival movies.
Yeah, that's fine.
Linked to whatever, right? I have also, I forgot. I feel like no one's seen this movie, but I might be just dumb. So 2005 had a movie called The Cave, which was also quite good. Well, it was all right. It was okay. It was okay. I wouldn't say it was quite good, thinking about that. It was also about these people, like these cave divers who go into a cave system, but they don't meet sharks. They meet something else. They find something else, which I don't want to, because it's a spoiler if I talk about it. So it's just they find some deadly creatures there that end up attacking them. That adventure is, I like the concept of it. I think that one also had some execution problems. But that's definitely one that goes really well with the concept here. Another one, if we talked about catacombs, and that sort of thing, and kind of like the claustrophobic feeling, not underwater, but still okay as well, is As Above, So Below.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I believe it was a found footage movie. It was a found footage, I think it was found footage horror movie where I don't know, I would say siblings that went to, the siblings who I think who explore this,
in the catacombs under Paris, aren't they?
Cave system. Yeah.
In
Pardon?
the catacombs under Paris that I keep seeing all these bloody urban exploration videos about.
Yeah, exactly. And they're trying to film a documentary on these catacombs and stuff like that in Paris. So, I think those are my two choices, like my three pretty much choices, and one that kind of I feel like I haven't seen in a really long time is it's called The Hole, but I don't remember what year it was that they had it. The one, let's see. Yeah. 2001 had a movie called The Hole where there were these, I think it was these teens that were, that disappeared, and then because they were trapped in this, underground fallout shelter.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
that
yes,
was,
I know
and it
the
has
one
like
that's-
Keira Knightley
Yeah,
and
Batch and Lawrence Fox.
Yeah. So this one has that same kind of like psychological element of being trapped underground and this kind of that sort of feeling. It kind of goes really I think it goes kind of Lord of the Flies way. But yeah.
Yeah, it goes a bit south for those involved. No, The Hole is really a really great under the radar movie. Unfortunately, there's a Joe Dante movie also called The Hole as well, so people do get a little confused there. But the Thor Birch one is just another stand-up performance by Thor Birch, especially.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, The Hole I got, as a side note, I got this one on like I think a cheapy Walmart bargain movie pack, and then it was surprisingly good. So.
Fantastic. For myself, I mean, it's very sort of similar to picture yourself. I mean, rather than The Descent, I would say watch The Descent 2. I thought it was a much superior film than the original Descent. And The Descent itself, I mean, I thought was just basically a poor man's version of What Waits Below, which is certainly a much more scary and effective movie. Again, monsters in a caving system. Simple sort of setup there, but it's got some really interesting little twist to it, and there's a really great atmosphere to it as well. We got Sanctorum, about a group of people trapped in a cave system, which has got elements of obviously cave diving in there and spelunking, so that's got a nice claustrophobic edge to it as well. And those would be my main sort of picks, because I think anything else that I would choose would go off into more sort of disaster territory, and that'd be sort of things like, Poseidon Adventure or Tower Inferno, just this idea of people overcoming obstacles to get to an objective, especially in the case of Poseidon Adventure, is follows a similar sort of plot layout to this film is in, we've got a group of survivors whose cruise ship gets turned upside down by a freak wave, and they have to make the way essentially from the top of the ship, which is now at the bottom, all the way to the bottom of the ship, which is now at the top. It was remade as Poseidon as well, which is pretty effective as well, but the original version is still a classic, and one I like to catch whenever it's on. So, but those would be our picks. 47 meters down, kind of throw away, but 47 meters down, Uncaged for myself, surprisingly good. So check them out for yourself. They are available in some regions as streaming, others I think as cheap rentals. So yes, this brings us to the end of another episode of Moose and Tea. Thank you as always for listening. If you haven't done already, please do hit the like and subscribe button, and maybe leave us a review, as it all helps raise the profile of the show. You can check out our full archive of episodes at movesandteapodcast.wordpress.com, where we've got all our previous seasons, looking at the likes of Sofia Coppola, Paul W.S. Anderson, Ang Lee, and Guillermo del Toro, and our most recent season looking at David Fincher. And on there as well, you can also find the fun bits of writing that we do as well as our Friday Film Club, where each Friday myself and Kim both pick a film to put together into a fun little double feature. Sometimes there's a theme, sometimes there's not. Either way, it's a chance for us to explore and share the movies that we like as well. But until then, thank you for listening. Thank you to my co-host Kim, and we'll be back soon with another After Hours pick. Until then, good night.